unendingly answering you with precision that defies verbal description. You just have to get happy. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
Further back.
I have a question about, I would call it super consciousness, meditation. I want to know how to break through and experience broader perspective more directly.
A breakthrough sounds a little bit like trying. In other words, it's a little dramatic. Yes?
Yes.
Superconscious is just what it feels like when you're in the vortex.
But how good can it feel?
Well, it is unlimited. The thing that's interesting is that when life causes you to reach far and you line up with it, it feels better than if life causes you to reach not so far and you line up with it. Mm-hmm. So the further you reach and the more you line up with it, the better it feels. So a feeling of knowing. Tell us what you think about this. If you desire something and there's no question in your mind that you can achieve it, you know it. And so you just go about it and you achieve it in a knowing way. How would you describe that? Satisfaction?
Comfortable.
Contentment? Comfortable. Mm-hmm. If you want something and you define it as really big, and you do, and it's bigger than where you currently are, but you dared to reach for it, and you felt the awkwardness of that reaching. But then you soothed the awkwardness of that reaching by imagining it, by pretending it, by becoming comfortable with the feeling of it, and then it manifested. How did that feel? Same answer. Comfortable again. Mm-hmm. Because you had to get comfortable before it would manifest. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter how far out there it is. You have to reach the place of expecting it. It must feel like the next logical step before it can become a reality, you see. So the best way for things to, the fastest way to get from where you are to where you want to be, and this is going to sound odd, is to make peace with where you are. So we would look for evidence of that superconsciousness in our now. Every time something happened, that we consciously made the connection, that we know that we thought it and we aligned with it and then it happened, we would just play it up and play it up and play it up and play it up and play it up. Jerry and Esther taking a walk every day around the loop where they live in Del Mar. And Esther's got her camera because she's looking through the deliciousness of life to find the perfect picture to send to Kate. So she's got her camera phone with her at all times, and they're walking and basking. And so they stopped and looked, and now she's got her camera with her so she can take pictures of all kinds of things that she appreciates, that she may want to incorporate into her life experience in some way. And so they are standing and looking at the hillside, and there's a beautiful house up at the top of the hill. And on this hillside are flowers that she or Jerry, neither one had seen before and did not know the names of, but they were orange and they looked almost like umbrellas, the way they were showering down, like little orange pine trees almost. And they were scattered all up the hillside. Very, very beautiful. And then up on the porch was an umbrella, the same color, that looked just like them. And Esther thought, wasn't that smart of them? So she took a picture. She just loved the continuity of all of that. And they talked about it. And that whole scenario took a minute or two as they're walking by. Because Jerry never stops walking even while Esther is stopping to take a picture. He just keeps going. So Esther takes her picture, and then she comes along and catches up with Jerry. And then the next day, as they walked that loop, the owners of that property, who could not have seen them from where they were tending that specific garden. And Esther and Jerry bubbled all up with enthusiasm. And Esther said, we shined our spotlight of interest there and called them right to that spot. The house blue, almost sky blue. And there is someone on the ground painting another part of the house, the color of the landscape, the gold and bird sanctuary grass color that is off in the distance. And Jerry and Esther looked at it and said to each other, I wonder if they're trying to decide which color to paint the house. And this is a good way of doing it, just getting some of it up there. The next day, as they walked the loop, a woman came out of the house with her house plans and said, let me show you what I'm doing. She does not know Jerry and Esther. She had not seen them. She was not in on their discussion. They had shown interest to something, and the woman who had full plan, the house is going to be two colors. Part of it is the color of the sky, part of it is the color of the ground. And she was so excited, and somehow the universe, through law of attraction, has put them into vibrational alignment and helped them to rendezvous. Jerry and Esther take none of that for granted. They know that these are universal forces bringing to them every answer to every question, no matter how big or small the scope of it. Because when you ask, it is given every time, always, no exception, you see. So superconsciousness is nothing more than what you want being answered. And if there is a teacher or an answer that is bigger than your question, it's not very beneficial to you, is it? It's the rendezvousing of the question and the answer that equals the explosion of life, you see. And without the question, there cannot be an answer, and therefore no explosion, but there is no ending to what will be. One day, many years ago, long before Esther knew Jerry, he was riding in the back of a pickup with some children, and their father was driving the truck. And he announced, the father, that there were no brakes on the truck, but he had learned to control the truck through the gears. And Jerry thought, well, he must know what he's doing because his own kids are in the back of the truck, so they all piled in and off they went. Jerry was helping them learn Spanish. They had a canvas tarp over the top, and they were studying with a flashlight. So up this mountain they go. And then Jerry realizes, by the sound he hears, that this father is trying to put the truck into a gear that will slow it down, but he is going too fast and it will not take. And Jerry knows that they are out of control. And so he says to the children, well, this is it. And the father was wise enough, rather than going over the embankment, to drive the truck into the hillside, which caused it to turn upside down, and the truck came down on top of all of them. And Jerry says that he remembers his hands and knees hitting the pavement with the canvas only between. And then when the truck piled on top of him, he lost consciousness. And then he announced to anyone who would hear his story, and to us many years later, I am not worried about death because I now know what the death experience is. I now know that 1 minute you're alert and focused and present, and the next moment there just isn't anything. But because there isn't anything, it doesn't matter to you that there isn't anything. And we said, that's not what death is. That's not what, that is unconscious. Death is superconscious. Death is the culmination of all that you have become. The death experience is the super consciousness that you are looking at, but even in that, it is not the ending, because there is more physical coming forward, more contrast to live, more asking, you see. So if we were trying to define, as you are, what super consciousness is, we would just call it alignment with all that I have become so far. And we would call it a joyful moment. Meditation is an exercise where you release resistance. But we don't call that superconsciousness as much as we call a moment of or a rampage of appreciation superconsciousness. In other words, it is so much more to be fully focused through this body with all that you are flowing through you than to be limiting your thoughts just for the sake of releasing resistance and being in that space of detachment. Detachment, which is meditation, which is non-resistance, is a good starting place, but it is not superconsciousness. Superconsciousness is being focused with purpose and reason and all of the energy that creates worlds flowing through you, and you offering no resistance in the moment and experiencing the exhilaration of that connection. That's superconsciousness.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.